I know because as you mentioned, I work with you and I spent 13 years at Microsoft. So thanks everyone for sticking around. We'll keep this short and sweet. I think looking at the last presentation there is a lot of ways that companies today are trying to combat just security in general, combat phishing and deepfake attacks, right? There's conditional access and there's some other ways. Uh, the approach that we're bringing from Witway, which is basically where in the world are you? With AI now, we're also calling it what in the world are you? So when you are speaking to someone of a chat, when you're speaking to somebody on Teams or Zoom, um, now you have to ask yourself, is this the real person that I'm talking to, who the person that I'm supposed to be talking to? So that's what the approach is, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today, both on the online meeting world, but also on the email and threat hijacking and phishing world. So we'll bore you with a lot of this stuff because I know this is a very sophisticated crowd here, but we know the phishing problem hasn't been solved yet. It's still a major issue and it's very expensive. And there are some key reasons for that, right? We still had to rely on the million tools that we put between the sender and the recipient, but we also have to have the users themselves trained and reminded that they need to be cautious when interacting with certain emails and certain content within those emails. AI pretty much changed everything, right? So reliably, you can find grammar and misspellings and things like that that you can rely on to identify those spam emails. But that's gone with AI, right? Because you can write perfectly um, grammatically correct emails now with OpenAI. The threat landscape, the sophistication of attacks just keeps changing. So this isn't something that's going away anytime soon. And I feel really bad for the end users, right? I mean, I have to do this every day. I'm sure you do too. It's not easy, right? We have to look at a lot of different things. I put this slide together just sort of piecing different things together, but I'm sure if one of you creates the same slide, you probably can come up with a probably half a dozen more things that the users have to look for. So this is not an easy solution when we had to put so much on the user's plate to figure out which emails are legitimate and which emails are not. And so that's where our approach comes in trying to help the end users and trying to help the security team. Again, this is just another data point around why this phishing problem is so prevalent, so dangerous, because 90% of attacks, cyber attacks, start with an email. So that's again not new to anyone here. So I'm gonna just skip through this, but this is basically where the genesis of where Witway kind of came from is we need to focus the attention a little bit more into the user and the sender themselves. So none of what I'm talking about here has anything to do with content scanning, attachment or email link detonation, which you have several tools I'm sure already doing that. I'm not here to tell you to stop doing that. Please continue to do that. You cannot afford not to. You unfortunately have to do it all. What I'm trying to do is say we probably need to focus a little more on the users themselves. Make sure it's a human that's sending that email. Make sure that it's a person that has ownership of a device that you control before we trust those emails. And so here's a quick just overview of how the solution works. You are sending an email from Outlook as you normally do. We have a policy in the backend that has identified this user as someone that should get verified. And by verify, we mean they need to use phishing resistant credential, passkeys, to make sure that they are on a device that is managed and trusted, that make sure that they are in a network that is managed and trusted, if you want it. But also it's about having a control of the device. But this is an optional policy where the users can skip and say, oh, I want to send it anyway and not verify themselves. You can create thresholds around that. So say the first three emails they can skip, but after that they probably have to do verification. And then this to me is sort of the piece that adds the most value, which is we're not just asking the user to verify themselves with their traditional username and passwords and maybe their traditional multi-factor authenticator app. We want to use phishing resistant credential like passkeys. That means it's tied to your device. So the bad guys can steal your credential. They can even phish your multi-factor credentials. but they will be hard pressed, and it'll be much higher bar for them to get your device, right? It can happen, but we're trying to raise the bar just a little further. So you can configure this and say, hey, you, Mr. CFO, or whoever you want to define in your company, should do a verification every 24 hours, at least once a day. You can do it every 2 days, every week, whatever fits your needs. But this is a policy you can configure to ensure that those folks are indeed in control of the devices when they're sending those emails. And this, to me, again, the piece of resistance is giving the users a very simple way to say, okay, this sender went through the trouble of scanning their face, or scanning their fingers on the machine, so I know this user is in control of his machine when he sent me the email. But now, for me to know that, I give them a button that they can press in Outlook. And what we do is we stamp every email with a unique ID. We compare that in the background real quick, and we show the user the results. And right away, they know that this sender had possession of his device when he sent the email, and that they use phishing-resistant credentials to send this email, and very quickly see that they're internal. And if there's any shenanigans with the spelling of the domain, we can immediately detect that and make it very, very easy to see for the end users. Again, very simple, one button to press for the recipients, a very simple second and a half scan of your face or fingerprint for the sender, and it creates just this trust between sender and recipient that I think today is perhaps a 90%. I think we can bring this up higher to closer to 99% of trust on that email sent. The
Hey,
other thing,
Ralph,
real quick here, yeah,
it almost sounds like it's not just dual factor authentication, almost three-factor authentication
yes, that's a
that
very good point.
is providing the next level. And I may not have it right. It's something you know, something you are, and something
Something you
you
have, yeah,
have. And when
exactly.
you've got all those three things incorporated within your IAM identity management platform, it provides a level of security that's relatively easy to administrate, that ensures that you're not subject to phishing attacks. Is that a reasonable summary of what you're doing?
That is very reasonable, and I would add that the authentication piece, again, with phishing resistant credentials, is a key point here, because we authenticate and we verify ourselves every day when we log in. We use multi-factor, but if you're not using passwordless and phishing resistant credential, those credentials can still be phished. So yes, absolutely. It's a good summary. Thank you. And again, a reminder, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here and give you yet another scanning solution that's going to scan your attachments, your links, and the content of the email. I don't look at that at all. Our solution is simply focused on the user, on the human. And I think that's a very key distinction on what we're doing, is that we are looking for the good guys. We want it. We want the good guys who are trying to do the right thing. We're focusing on that human that's sending the email. Whereas other solutions are typically focused on the bad things that can happen. And there's a million of those things, and they're changing every day. So they have to keep playing whack-a-mole with things. I'm just going after the good guys and trying to make sure that they have the tool to quickly verify themselves, uh, to to ensure the trust of that email. Now, the other thing that happens when an account gets compromised is typically they log in, right? If they can get to your Office 365, they're going to start reading your emails and see if they can interject themselves into an email conversation. Someone is waiting for an invoice. Someone is waiting for an important piece of data. The bad guys will send that email, reply, do some rules manipulation in the background to hide the replies from the other person. And so we, again, if the user hasn't verified themselves in, let's say, 24 hours, we will prompt them with a soft prompt here. But again, it's optional, so they can send it. So one thing you can do, again, with things like Purview and other technology within Microsoft, is you can say, okay, if this email is going to a protected recipient domain, I'm going to block it at the Exchange layer, right? At the Office 365 layer. You can integrate the tools like that. But for the user, if they, in this case, I'm sending an email to, I'm just going to call it a regular person, but the minute that I add another person in this case is an external domain, even though it looks close to mine, um, there's a policy in the background that has um, identified this domain as a important partner, you can call it. I call it a protected recipient, but it's an important partner that I want to make sure that emails coming from my company. So this is a brand protection feature. Emails coming from my company to this important partner are legitimate, right? So even though they don't have Witway installed, they benefit because you are making sure that your emails to them is verified before it goes out. So in this case, this protected partner was added to the email thread. And because the verification is older than a threshold that you set up, could be 2 hours, could be whatever number of minutes you want, the policy comes up and it's no longer optional. It's required now. But here's the other thing that's really important about this. Because this is live and you're online trying to send this email, we can send an alert that this is happening before the email leaves the inbox. Again, if you are sending this email on an online scenario, we will capture that interaction before the email leaves the user's inbox. So you know that this is taking place. There's an alert that got triggered. And maybe the process is the alert gets triggered, they go to get verified, and the verification fails. Well, that's a very strong signal that something is off. They either forgot, something got deleted, or maybe they don't have the right machine, because we can get the machine ID as well. And so we can give you this alert again before this email goes out. And so this is real life. Now you can configure the policy for this based on, again, purview. I worked for that team, by the way. I liked that presentation because that was my old team when the old AIP, MIP naming convention happened. But you can say, hey, if I apply a label to an email, or I attach a particular attachment, or the recipient attributes, or department, domain, etc., or the sender. Could be if you're from the finance department, you're sending an email to the whole company, right? I want to make sure that this is really the CFO. I'm sending it to the CEO, the board, whoever. I want to make sure that these emails are indeed from this person. And so you can ask them. And again, the integration with Outlook, we make it really simple. The users don't have to type anything to enroll in passkeys. We generate the user name for them, the ID. All they have to do is scan their face or finger. That's it. You can use your mobile device. So if you want to go from multiple devices, multiple locations, we allow you to do that. And we'll capture all that interaction and report back to make sure that you have great sense of trust on that email.
Ralph,
Yep.
we've got just a few minutes to finish up, but
Yep,
I think as he covers this, the key takeaway for all of you out there is I know what Ralph is looking at is organizations to work with him to do a proof of concept to validate this technology as it's in somewhat startup mode, but validated given his experience working with Microsoft. So let him finish up here, but that's really the key takeaway. If you think this is of interest, that's what Ralph is looking for.
Absolutely. Happy to talk to early adapters who will be interested in this type of technology. So the same thing you saw for email, we do it for Microsoft Teams. This article sort of changed my life and it put me down this path because it was very clever. I was very impressed by it, but it's also a very real concern for a lot of companies. So, deepfake CFO joins a call with an employee, convinces him because it looks like him, it sounds like him, convinces him to wire $25 million on the spot, again, while talking to him face to face, right? What can go wrong? So what we do is we have an add-in for Teams. We're starting with Microsoft Teams, not Zoom just yet, where we can enforce, again, passkey and phishing resistant credential when you are creating the meeting in Outlook, and you can enforce it when they join the meeting. So that gives you the ability to know that this person is indeed who they say they are. This is just another view of what that meeting looks like. We put people in pins around the world if they're joining from different locations so that you can have more interactive meeting and understand kind of where people are coming from. So some of the partners, we're Microsoft Partner Technologies. We're partnering with Keyless as well, who is bringing in some decentralized zero knowledge biometric solution, which is pretty exciting. So happy to chat, happy to connect. Let me know if you guys are interested in learning more about this. We're looking for early adopters. And I want to thank you all for your time. Ron, thank you, and back to you.